Most couples get to miss each other during the day and have stories to share when they reunite at home, but we experienced everything together in real time. Our conversations at dinner consisted mainly of rehashing events we had both witnessed firsthand, which made for some pretty repetitive evenings. The weirdest part about workplace marriage was discovering how different Anna acted at the plant versus at home. At work, she maintained perfect professional composure, followed all safety protocols, and interacted politely with supervisors and coworkers. At home, however, she became much more critical and demanding, pointing out problems with our apartment, our finances, and our relationship that she never mentioned during work hours. The most telling change was her sudden bathroom ritual before work shifts. She started spending 20 minutes applying makeup and fixing her hair for a job that required safety goggles and hard hats. When I asked about the extra effort, she claimed the industrial environment made her feel unattractive and she needed to compensate. I noticed early warning signs that seemed completely normal at the time, but would later make devastating sense. Anna mentioned feeling overlooked by supervisors and complained that her efforts went unnoticed by management. She seemed particularly interested in gossip about other employees and asked detailed questions about my interactions with various coworkers. I dismissed these behaviors as normal working stress rather than signs of deeper dissatisfaction. The packaging department was known for its demanding supervisors and high-pressure environments, so her complaints seemed reasonable. Keeping work drama separate from marriage drama became impossible when both happened in the same building. If Anna had a difficult day with her supervisor, she would bring that frustration home and it would affect our entire evening. When we disagreed about household responsibilities, the tension would carry over into our workplace interactions the next day. Our coworkers could read our relationship status based on how we interacted during shift changes and lunch breaks. The packaging department became a stage where our personal problems played out in front of an audience of curious colleagues. The comedic irony of believing I knew Anna completely just because we spent every waking hour together became obvious only in hindsight. Constant proximity created an illusion of intimacy that masked the actual distance growing between us. I assumed that seeing her daily work performance meant I understood her personality completely. I thought our shared workplace experiences created a bond that other couples couldn't match. The reality was spending every moment together prevented us from having the kind of separate experiences that give couples interesting things to discuss and share. Workplace marriages operate without instruction manuals, and neither Anna nor I understood the unique challenges we faced. We entered marriage with romantic notions about spending every day together and building a life around our shared employment. Nobody warned us about the claustrophobic effect of constant togetherness or the difficulty of maintaining individual identities when your entire social circle comes from the same workplace. We learned through trial and error that some couples need space to maintain attraction and interest in each other. The contrast between our public behavior at work and our private struggles at home became increasingly obvious to anyone paying attention. We maintained professional courtesy during work hours, coordinating our tasks and interacting politely in front of colleagues. Behind closed doors, however, we were dealing with growing dissatisfaction and communication problems that we never discussed openly. I thought we were successfully keeping our personal issues private, but the strain probably showed in ways I didn't recognize at the time. Anna's complaints about attention and affection were actually requests for a different kind of attention entirely. She mentioned that I didn't notice her efforts to look good for me, and that I didn't show enough affection or appreciation. I interpreted these comments as normal relationship maintenance issues that could be resolved through better time management and more conscious effort. I failed to understand that her complaints represented deeper emotional needs that weren't being met through our current relationship pattern. She was basically interviewing for someone else to fill the position I was neglecting. The reality of Anna's growing dissatisfaction became clear through her changing behavior patterns. She stopped arguing with my explanations about work responsibilities and time management issues. Instead of continuing our discussions about relationship problems, she would simply nod and agree with whatever I said. This apparent acceptance felt like progress to me, but it actually meant she had stopped investing emotional energy in trying to fix our problems. Her silence represented disengagement rather than understanding. 5 years of marriage can feel like a lifetime or a blink of an eye, depending on what you discover at the end. During those years, I thought we were building a solid foundation for our future together. We had established routines, shared financial responsibilities, and created what seemed like a stable partnership. However, the discovery of Anna's affair recontextualized those 5 years as a period of gradual deception and emotional distance that I had completely misunderstood. Anna's transformation from complaining wife to silent observer should have alarmed me, but I interpreted it as relationship maturity. Her lack of arguments seemed like acceptance of my career priorities and understanding of our financial goals. The truth was that she had simply found alternative sources for the attention and affection she wasn't getting at home. What I didn't realize was that my next career advancement would create the perfect conditions for her to explore those alternatives more thoroughly. The promotion that changed everything. More money, more problems. Getting promoted to chief mechanic at the salt mining facility sounded impressive when I accepted the position, but nobody mentioned that the title came with a marriage to industrial equipment that demanded more attention than my actual wife. The promotion meant overseeing all mechanical systems throughout the plant and managing a team of skilled technicians. I was essentially fixing pumps at midnight while my relationship leaked by daylight, though I remained completely oblivious to this ironic parallel. My days stretched longer as I stayed late to complete maintenance reports, plan equipment schedules, and ensure every machine operated at peak efficiency. The increased income should have improved our quality of life, but instead created a gap between Anna and me that I completely failed to notice. I justified every late evening at the plant by telling myself I was building our financial future and securing stability for the children we planned to have someday. Each extra hour spent troubleshooting equipment problems represented another step toward the comfortable life I envisioned for us. The irony of working harder to provide for my family while accidentally neglecting the family I was providing for became painfully obvious only after everything fell apart. I measured success by the size of my paycheck and the respect I earned from supervisors, completely missing the fact that Anna measured success by entirely different criteria. My increased responsibilities created the perfect opportunity for Anna to seek attention elsewhere, though I remained completely oblivious to her growing dissatisfaction. While I focused on proving myself worthy of the promotion and managing complex industrial systems, Anna dealt with the reality of having a husband who was physically present but mentally preoccupied with work demands. She continued working her regular packaging department schedule while I disappeared into the maintenance office for hours each day, reviewing equipment manuals and coordinating repair schedules. The promotion that made me feel successful actually created distance between us that I interpreted as temporary adjustment rather than permanent relationship damage. Anna's complaints about my lack of attention started subtly but became more frequent as my work responsibilities expanded. She mentioned that I didn't notice her efforts to look good for me, and that I didn't pay enough attention or show affection throughout our daily interactions. She pointed out that we barely talked anymore except about work-related topics, and that I seemed more interested in equipment problems than relationship problems. These complaints seemed reasonable given my increased workload, but I treated them as temporary issues that would resolve themselves once I adapted to the new position. My response to Anna's concerns followed the same logical problem-solving approach I used for mechanical issues at the plant. I explained that I worked hard for the sake of our family and future children, assuring her that I would find more time for her soon once I mastered the demands of the new position. I outlined my career advancement goals and described how the increased income would benefit our long-term financial stability. These explanations made perfect sense to me, but they completely failed to address Anna's emotional needs or acknowledge the impact of my changed behavior on our relationship. The comedic timing of career success and marriage failure happening simultaneously became obvious only after I discovered the truth about Anna's activities. While I celebrated professional achievements and earned recognition from plant management, my marriage deteriorated through neglect and misplaced priorities. The promotion that represented the peak of my career ambitions coincided with the beginning of my personal life's collapse. I was so focused on mechanical systems that I failed to notice the breakdown of the most important system in my life. Anna's efforts to look good weren't necessarily for my benefit, though this possibility never occurred to me during our conversations about attention and affection. She spent increasing amounts of time on her appearance before work, choosing outfits carefully and paying extra attention to her hair and makeup. She mentioned feeling overlooked by supervisors and complained about not receiving recognition for her efforts at work. I interpreted these concerns as normal workplace frustrations rather than signs that she was seeking validation and appreciation from sources outside our marriage. The contrast between my logical explanations and Anna's emotional needs created a communication gap that widened with each attempted conversation. I approached relationship problems with the same systematic thinking that worked well for equipment troubleshooting, assuming that rational solutions would resolve any emotional issues. Anna needed attention, affection, and quality time together, while I offered explanations about career advancement and financial planning. We spoke different languages without realizing it, each becoming increasingly frustrated with the other's apparent inability to understand obvious concerns. Staying late at work would ironically lead to discovering what Anna was doing during those late hours, though I had no idea this revelation was coming. While I spent evenings in the maintenance office completing paperwork and planning repair schedules, Anna had apparently found alternative ways to spend her time. The extra hours I devoted to equipment maintenance created opportunities for her to engage in activities that had nothing to do with industrial machinery. The promotion I thought would solve our problems actually created entirely new ones that I didn't recognize until too late. Increased income meant nothing if it came at the cost of our emotional connection and daily interaction quality. Anna's transformation from complaining wife to silent observer should have alarmed me, but I interpreted her lack of argument as acceptance of my career priorities. When she stopped discussing relationship problems and simply agreed with my explanations about work demands, I thought we had reached an understanding. What I didn't realize was that her silence, Anna's complaints, the warning signs, I completely missed. Looking back now, I realize that Anna's complaints about lack of attention were essentially job applications for someone else to fill the position I was neglecting. She was posting a vacancy notice for the role of appreciative partner, complete with a detailed job description of everything I wasn't providing. Her complaints weren't requests for improvement, but rather interviews to see if I was qualified to keep the position. The funny thing about male logic is how we assume that explaining our reasoning automatically solves emotional problems. When Anna expressed frustration about my work schedule and lack of attention, I would launch into detailed explanations about career advancement and providing for our future family. These logical presentations made perfect sense to me, but they completely failed to address her emotional needs. Anna's silence after these conversations wasn't understanding, but planning, though I completely misinterpreted her response. When she stopped arguing with my explanations about work demands, I thought we had reached a mutual understanding. Her lack of counter-arguments seemed like acceptance of my career priorities. The reality was that she had simply stopped wasting energy on conversations that weren't producing the results she wanted. My confidence that Anna understood my intentions was completely misplaced while she was clearly making other arrangements. I believed that my explanations about working hard for our family's sake had convinced her to be patient with my demanding schedule. Meanwhile, Anna had apparently decided that waiting for me to find more time wasn't worth the effort. She had moved on to finding someone who already had time available and was willing to provide the attention she wasn't getting at home. What Anna was really doing during all those hours when I was working late becomes a fascinating question in hindsight. While I spent evenings in the maintenance office completing paperwork and coordinating repair schedules, she had apparently found more interesting ways to occupy her time. I assumed she was at home watching television, reading, or handling household tasks that we usually shared. The thought that she might be engaged in activities requiring coordination with other people never occurred to me. Her schedule seemed to align perfectly with my extended work hours, which I interpreted as supportive understanding rather than convenient timing for unauthorized activities. The comedic irony of Anna's efforts to look good being noticed by someone other than her husband became obvious only after I discovered the truth. She had complained that I didn't notice her increased attention to appearance, her careful selection of work outfits, and her extra time spent on hair and makeup. I dismissed these concerns as normal relationship issues that would resolve themselves once I adapted to my new responsibilities. Anna's efforts were indeed being noticed and appreciated, just not by the person she was supposedly trying to impress. Her complaints about my lack of attention were actually announcements that someone else was providing the validation she wasn't getting at home. Anna's lack of arguments wasn't peaceful acceptance, but strategic disengagement from our relationship conflicts. When she stopped discussing problems and simply agreed with my explanations about work priorities, I interpreted this as relationship maturity. Her silence seemed like evidence that she had accepted my career demands and understood the temporary nature of our scheduling conflicts. The truth was that she had decided our conversations were pointless because she had found alternative solutions to her problems. Her agreement with my reasoning wasn't understanding, but indifference to my explanations. Sometimes when people stop fighting, it's not because they found peace, but because they found alternatives to the relationship they were fighting about. Anna's transformation from complaining wife to silent observer should have alarmed me, but I welcomed the apparent reduction in conflict. Her lack of arguments seemed like progress toward a more harmonious marriage, where both partners understood their roles and responsibilities. The reality was that she had simply found someone else to provide what she wasn't getting from me. Her silence represented emotional departure rather than emotional acceptance. Anna's increased beauty salon visits were possibly preparation for someone else's appreciation, though this possibility never occurred to me during our discussions about attention and affection. She mentioned spending money on hair appointments and nail services that I barely noticed, but her investment in looking good was indeed paying dividends in ways I never expected. My promise to find more time for Anna came about 5 years too late to save our marriage. By the time I assured her that I would balance work and personal responsibilities better, she had already found someone who made time for her a priority. My career advancement had created a gap between us that I thought was temporary, but which Anna had decided was permanent. The increased income and professional recognition I worked so hard to achieve meant nothing when measured against the relationship stability I had accidentally sacrificed. My efforts to provide for our future had inadvertently destroyed the partnership I was trying to strengthen. The warning signs I completely missed were actually a comprehensive evaluation of a relationship that Anna conducted over several months. Her complaints about attention and affection were performance reviews that I repeatedly failed. Her silence after my explanations was the equivalent of giving up on an employee who couldn't meet basic job requirements. Her increased attention to appearance was preparation for interviews with potential replacement candidates. By the time I recognized these patterns, Anna had already made her decision about our marriage and implemented her alternative plan. What I didn't know was that someone else had been watching Anna's activities with professional interest, and that person was about to make the most awkward phone call of both our lives. John's phone call, when your security buddy becomes your worst nightmare. John's phone call started as the most ordinary invitation imaginable, just a former colleague suggesting we grab a drink and catch up on old times. He mentioned wanting to discuss some things and asked if I had time to meet at our usual spot after work. I agreed immediately because John and I maintained a good friendship even after I left security for the maintenance department. These casual meetups happened every few months, usually involving complaints about plant management, updates on mutual friends, and general workplace gossip that kept us connected to our shared professional history. What I should have noticed was the unusual tension in John's voice during our brief phone conversation. He spoke more quietly than usual and seemed to choose his words carefully, which struck me as odd given our normally casual communication style.